Hi and welcome back. Today I'm going to give you the next video walkthrough of the book The Language of a Proto Norse Runic Inscription by Wolfgang Krause. My name is Nikolaj Sandbæk. I have a master degree in Indo-European linguistics from Copenhagen University, and I'm currently working as a scientific research assistant at Copenhagen University, where I'm working with Old Danish. So today we are going to talk about what Krause meant by Proto Norse in terms of time and geography. Proto Norse, like any other language, is not a static thing. It changes in geography and in time. The area it is spoken in is not constant, and the speed the language develops in is not constant either. In some periods of time it goes very rapidly, and in others almost nothing happens. Proto Norse can be divided into two language stages. The first one is early Proto Norse, which was spoken from 200 AD to 600 AD. And then on we get late Proto Norse, and that was spoken from 600 AD to 800 AD, and from that time we actually get Old Norse, the language of the Vikings. Not much change happens in the early period. We need to go up to about 500 AD before we start to see changes, and 600 AD it really starts to go fast. and after 200 years the language has changed completely, and I would say it is hardly even recognizable. Of course, from a historical linguist perspective, it is easily recognizable. But if we were to take like a Viking from 900 AD, 1000 AD, and made them read Proto Norse from let's say 500 year 570 AD, I think they'll have a pretty hard time understanding this language. And so another thing which Krause also mentions is that it is not actually really sure that these Proto Norse runic inscriptions, especially in the early period, is actually a specific dialect from a specific area, because we hardly don't see any variation at all, even though the geographical area where we find these runic inscriptions is pretty vast. So maybe, like in ancient Greece, we have a lingua franca, a Koine language, which was kind of like a common language for a group of people to use when they did their work. And but maybe it really just was a uniform language in a vast area. We can see that in the case of Russia. Almost entirely through Russia, the Russian language is mainly the same. But also another important thing to mention is that the runic alphabet itself, it goes from 24 characters down to 16 characters from the time of Proto Norse to the Viking Age. And that is actually a bit strange, because through these changes, the Norse language actually get more sounds to represent when they are writing. But that's what happens. And the next thing, which is also important to mention, is that how do we actually manage to date how old these runic inscriptions are, because a text is not evidence of age in itself. I mean, I could fabricate a short inscription in Proto Norse, but that will still be from today. So what you need to do is you need to get archaeologists at work and make them try to date the very object the runic inscriptions is from. And some objects is of course harder to date than others. You can take organic materials like wood, and when you have established from maybe organic material, okay, fine, we can read the language and it looks like this, then you can use the linguistic evidence to tell how old other inscriptions are on objects which are much harder to date. But some objects are often more closely tied to a specific language period. Like in the case of late Proto Norse, we have bracteate. A bracteate is a small plate in various sizes. It is often golded. It can be filled up with ornaments and art, animal motifs, but also runic inscriptions. And of course, some of these inscriptions were to give you good luck. They were like small magic charms, and you would use bracteate as jewelry, attached on clothes, maybe use it as a belt on the stomach, and you could have a runic master to make an inscription on it. Of course, depending on what you wanted to be written and how much space, whereas the runic master will often shorten the inscription in, unfortunately, arbitrary ways, which of course many times make it even harder to read when we find this object and want to understand what is written on it. For example, I can give you here below in text examples of how the word for onion, laukaʀ, can be shortened down in various ways. But yeah, as mentioned, bracteates are almost entirely connected to late Proto Norse, and hardly any of them are actually written in Old Norse. And when we start to know such thing, we can actually also use the different variation of the runic alphabet, as I also mentioned that it gets shortened and changes happen, but not the same changes everywhere at the same time. So sometimes we can see, okay, we find an object in Sweden, for example, but the variation of the runic alphabet at this time maybe actually more belongs to Norway or Denmark, and that can mean that the runic master was from either Norway or Denmark, or the object has been transferred to Sweden after it was created. So yeah, that was actually all for this time. In the next video, I want to tell you what Krause thinks about Proto Norse and its relationship to neighboring languages. And I encourage you to look in the description if you're more curious. I will give the titles of the books I have been using for this video, and I will also give etymologies, and the book titles is mainly actually to look up the etymologies I give. And of course, today's etymology is, of course, onion. That's all for now. Please hit the bell button and subscribe. See you next time.